Hello, hi, how are you guys? I hope that you all are doing great. Welcome back to Her Chaotic Mind. So, it's been 2 years since I started this channel, since I posted my first ever video on YouTube, and here we are. It's been 2 years. I just realized that in these 2 years, I have never talked about my most favorite books of all times. I have never recommended the books that I absolutely adore. So yeah, this video is about that. 2 years later, I have come to my senses, and today I am gonna be recommending to you my favorite book from every genre. Not every genre that exists, obviously, but every genre that I have read about, I have read. And yeah, that will be this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So, the first book or the first genre that I am going to talk about is the most beloved genre of all. And obviously, when we are talking about love, it has to be a romance. So, the most favorite book from romance has to be none other than Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is the book that has my heart and soul. I love this with every fiber of my being. It is the romance between the first son of America and the prince of England. This is such a fluffy, sweet, bit cringe, but oh my god, I just love the package of this. It has amazing writing, it has letters, it has amazing side characters, it has immense banter, and it has basically every element that is required to make a romance book great. Please pick this book up if you haven't already. It's Red, White, and Royal Blue for you guys. The next book or the next genre that I am going to talk about is contemporary fiction. And I think it would be a criminal offense if I mention any other book apart from Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Has to be the best book out there, has to be the book which will be considered a classic 50 years down the line. So, as you can guess, it is a story of a woman called Evelyn Hugo who aspires to be an actress and then ultimately goes on to become one and become a diva. And it's her story of struggle and friendship, love, falling out of love, and just becoming the Evelyn Hugo. So, yeah, that's Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for you all. If you haven't read it already, oh my god, what are you doing? Please pick it up. Please read this book. It's amazing. You're not going to regret. The next book that I am going to talk about, well, that is a genre that I haven't really read a lot, but I am going to recommend Blood Harvest. And surprisingly enough, not a lot of people are recommending it out there. This is a psychological thriller. Yeah. Airplanes, cars, honking, children screaming, everything has to happen while I'm trying to record a video. So, yeah, let that airplane pass. Okay, so I was talking about Blood Harvest. So Blood Harvest is a psychological thriller. It is about a family which moves into a new town, and their little kids start seeing a very suspicious looking young girl who apparently only those two kids can see and no other person can. And the town is infamous for the death of young girls who were around the same age when they died. Psychological thriller, scary, spooky, always gonna keep you to the edge of your seat kind of a book. Blood Harvest. Pick it up. The next genre that I am gonna talk about is also one of those genres that is very scary. No, I'm not talking of horror. I am talking of classics. This is coming from a literature student. I am speaking for a lot of readers out there. We are kind of spooked to start a new classic because obviously it's scary. It's something which has great literary significance, and you kind of get scared. What if you don't end up liking it? And a lot of people actually don't pick the right book and just don't explore the genre anymore. So if you are someone who wants to get into classics, this is the book where you start. It is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It is a masterpiece, a literary masterpiece, and it was written somewhat in the early 19th century. And oh my god, it still is so freaking relevant. It is about a scientist who is on the quest of knowledge, on the quest of exploring something extraordinary, ends up creating something that becomes the cause of his downfall. It is about the dark side of science and innovation. It is amazing. The writing is beautiful. It is a book which will get you into reading classics. So yeah, Frankenstein for you guys. Also, the book that I am going to mention now, the genre I am going to mention now, it is kind of a gateway to get into classics. In the genre of modern classics, I am going to recommend The Handmaid's Tale. If you don't know about this book, this is a dystopic literature. It is about a fallen world which wasn't fallen until very recently. And it is about the importance of freedom and liberty, and how much we take it for granted and how much we suffer when it's snatched away from us. It's a beautifully written book. There is a series based on this as well. I haven't watched that yet, but if you think that you want to get into classics or modern classics, I feel like there are a lot of great movies, series adaptation of classics and modern classics. You can start there. And if you want to pick up the book, then please, The Handmaid's Tale. Very easy to read, very relatable, fast paced, and something that you are bound to enjoy. So yeah, The Handmaid's Tale for you guys. The next genre that I am going to talk about, it is something that it's not a typical genre. It comes under a genre that I have made for myself. That is Japanese literature. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I'll tell you guys about that in some other video. But the book that I have to mention in this genre is called Heaven. It's written by Miyoko Kawakami. I have repeatedly talked about that book on this channel. It is a book about bullying. It is a book about growing up into this world, which is a really scary place. It is about the perspective of an individual towards the same thing and how it differs from one another. It's beautiful, it's very graphic, it's heartbreaking. But if you guys want to read something which will make you rethink everything about bullying in school life, then please pick up this book. It's amazing. It's traumatizing, but it's amazing. Yeah, Japanese literature, Heaven. Okay, so the next genre and the next book recommendation is, well, the genre is called fantasy but not Harry Potter, because you all know that I am obsessed with Harry Potter and I need to talk about it every time I get a chance. So I decided that I am going to recommend a fantasy book which is not Harry Potter and will be easy to get into. And if you want to start reading fantasy, this is where you could start. It is The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue by V. Schwab. My most favorite book of all times, a book that reminded me that why I love to read. So yeah, you can see the annotations. I am obsessed with this book. I literally shove it to people's face, obviously the people who are close to me, to read this book. None have ever taken that suggestion and read it actually. So I am still waiting to to rave about this book to someone. So yeah, please do read this book and let's have a conversation because it's beautiful. It is beautifully written. The magical element or the fantasy aspect of this book is not that high. It is kind of delving between this magical realm and the contemporary world. So it is sort of like magical realism. It is about a girl who ends up trading her soul for a bit of freedom. And at the cost of what? The deal with the devil is made, the deal with the darkness is made, and what are the prices that Eddie or Edlin is going to pay for that? This book is about that, and it is simply a masterpiece. Please read this book, please. The next genre or the next book recommendation is The Namesake, from the genre of Indian authors. Well, I'll be honest with you guys. This book kind of put me into a reading slump that almost lasted for 2 years. Yeah. And I am showing it to you guys as my most favorite book written by an Indian author. Because there is something about this book. When I was reading it, I couldn't really find myself loving it. I was obviously writing, I was relating to it. I found it really very relatable, specifically because the protagonist and its family is big body, and I could relate to the cultural significance of everything that was being mentioned here and there. But While I was reading Namesake, I didn't realize that this is gonna be one of the books that I'll be revisiting in my head again and again and again. This is the book that changed something in my head. And Namesake is about a boy whose family has moved to America when he was really young, and it is about an Indian kid growing up in America and struggling to find his identity and feeling left out at times, feeling distracted, feeling lonely, feeling contented. It's a lovely book. It is something that I would definitely recommend to you guys. If you haven't read any Indian authors, then I think Jhumpal Lahiri's The Namesake is something that you should read. The next genre is a genre I don't talk about very often on this channel. It is also because it is a genre that I am absolutely scared of. The books that I have read of the genre have never been a hit for me, apart from Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People in Hurry. This is the book that I picked up after attending a lecture of mine. It was on science and tech, and the professor there, he kind of softly recommended this book, like soft launched it into the lecture, and I was like, okay, I love books, I love reading, and let's give it a try, let's see what happens. And this book ended up being one of the most favorite non-fiction book that I have read till date. It is beautifully written. Even though I am a student of humanities, I stopped reading anything sciencey after 10th grade. So if I read it and loved it, I think anyone out there can actually read it and love it. It is amazing. It's about the secrets of the universe and how amazing it is, how mind-boggling it is. If it's a very short read, and there's an audio book version of it which is narrated by Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's lovely. If you are trying to get into new genres, then I think you should give this a try. The next book that I am going to recommend, the next genre that I'm going to talk about, is non-fiction self-help. And I know, either you love that genre or you hate it. Well, I am the person who, hate is a very strong word, but I don't like it, guys. I don't like it. So when I read The Prophet and I actually loved it, you have to believe me that it did something incredible. It is a poetic essay collection of Khalil Gibran. There are 26 essays in this one. It's spiritual. It is something that I didn't really expect to love, but I loved it. I loved almost every word, every piece in this one. It's a very short read. It's kind of self-help, obviously spiritual, philosophical. So if you are a person like me who don't really enjoy reading self-help or non-fiction, then I think Prophet is something that you can give a try. The next genre I am going to talk about, I don't think you have even considered of thinking of it to be a genre. I would love to call it no plot, just vibes, but very hard hitting, thought provoking conversations and complex characters. Yeah, I know that's not a genre, but I have to talk about Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I had to put it somewhere. I had already talked about, contemporary fiction. So yeah, I created a new genre to talk about Sally Rooney. That's how much I love this book. It is very complicated. Complicated in the sense the characters in this are very complicated. The writing is great. There are many quotes in this one that kind of triggered something in my head that shouldn't have been triggered. I am traumatized of this book, but I love it. It made me think of very uncomfortable things, and I am glad that I did. It probably made me a more compassionate and considerate person. So, if you want to read a book which is coming of age and is gonna leave you traumatic, that's Normal People for you guys. Talking of trauma, the next book that I am gonna talk about is the book that gave me the highest amount of trauma, the book that made me ugly sob. That is the genre. The genre is called The Books That Made Me Sob, and the king of the books that can make you sob is The Kite Runner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For you, 1,000 times over. If you know, you know. Yeah, a book that is insanely painful and traumatic, and I love with every fiber of my being, is A Kite Runner. It's a story set in Afghanistan. It's about two young boys and their friendship, and the extent that they would go to support each other. The worst and the gut wrenching and scariest feeling of all time, that is guilt. This book is about all those very sad stuff, but it's a literary masterpiece. It's a book that you have to read in a lifetime. Sometimes can't just English. This is a book that I cannot put down, even though my eyes were swollen and my vision was blurry because of the ugly tears that were running down my face. The Kite Runner. So yeah, on that note, we have come to the end of this video. I recommended so many books to you guys. So what are you doing? Go ahead and pick something up, read something, and if you end up reading a book that I recommended, let's talk about it. You can follow me on my Instagram handle, we can chat there, or you can comment down below what are your favorite reads. What do you think I should be reading? What are the books which are, the books that you call your favorite, the books that you recommend to every people out there? So yeah, that will be all. Please do consider subscribing to this channel if you found my video interesting. So without delaying any longer, without stopping you any further from reading your book, I'll call it a day and say goodbye. Bye.